The night was cold, darker than usual, and the streets were almost empty. A little girl walked alone, her bare feet touching the rough ground. She had no shoes, no warm coat, and no home to return to. The only thing she had was a thin blanket, old and torn, but it was her treasure. She wrapped it tightly around her shoulders to fight the cold. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. Hunger was normal for her. What hurt more was the silence, the loneliness, and the fear of being forgotten by the world. As she walked past broken lamps and closed shops, she suddenly stopped. Her ears picked up something strange. At first she thought it was the wind moving through the narrow alleys. But then she heard it again, a soft sound like someone crying. It was weak, trembling, and unlike any baby she had ever heard. The sound was not just sad, it was desperate, like a small heart begging to be noticed. The girl's eyes grew wide. She looked around carefully. The crying came from the dark corner near the trash bins. Slowly, step by step, she moved closer. The smell was bad and the ground was dirty, but the sound pulled her in. She bent down and pushed aside a broken box. And then she froze. There in the shadows lay a baby. But it was not a human baby. Its skin was pale silver, almost glowing faintly in the darkness. Its eyes were big, bright like little stars and full of tears. Its small body shivered as if the cold was slowly killing it. The little girl's heart skipped a beat. For a moment she was too shocked to move. Was this real? Was she dreaming? She rubbed her eyes, but the baby was still there, crying softly, helplessly. Her fear told her to run. She had heard stories about strange creatures, about soldiers who took people away if they found them hiding such things. But another voice inside her whispered something else. It is only a baby. It is suffering. And you are the only one here. The girl knelt down, her hands shaking. She reached out slowly, afraid the baby might vanish like smoke. But when her hand touched its tiny arm, she felt the truth. It was real. Its skin was cold, too cold, and its weak body trembled harder. Without thinking, she pulled off her old blanket and wrapped it around the alien child. The cloth was thin, but it gave warmth. She held the baby close to her chest, pressing it against her own skin, sharing her body heat. The alien baby made a soft sound, almost like a sigh. Its glowing eyes looked at her, not with fear, but with something gentle. For the first time in a long while, the girl felt needed. She felt important. She smiled through her own tears and whispered, "Don't cry. I will keep you safe." But the moment she said those words, something strange happened. The stars above the city flickered as if the sky itself had reacted. Lights far away in the heavens seemed to shift. She did not notice, but somewhere in the endless space, powerful eyes were watching. Someone had seen the moment when a poor little human girl gave her only blanket to a shivering alien baby. The girl stood up, holding the baby tightly in her arms. She looked around nervously, afraid someone might see. The streets were still empty, but now the silence felt different, heavier, as if danger was hiding nearby. She hurried into an old abandoned house she knew, with broken windows and a collapsed roof. It was the only place where she sometimes slept. Inside, she placed the baby gently on a pile of rags. She covered it again with the blanket and watched it breathe slowly, its glow dimming as it fell asleep. She sat beside it, hugging her knees, wondering what she had just done. Questions filled her mind. Where had it come from? Why was it left alone in the trash? And most of all, who would come looking for it? The girl did not know the answers. She only knew one thing. She could not leave the baby. No matter what danger came, she would protect it. Even if she was only a poor little girl with nothing, tonight she had found something worth everything. Far away in the dark sky, a shadow moved. A tall alien figure stood on a rooftop, his glowing eyes fixed on the small house. He whispered to himself, "The child has chosen, and now the galaxy will change." The little girl, unaware of the eyes watching her, leaned closer to the sleeping baby and whispered softly, "You are safe with me." And in that cold, forgotten night, a new story began, one that would shake the stars themselves. The night passed slowly and the little girl barely slept. She sat with her back against the wall of the broken house, her eyes never leaving the alien baby. Its glowing body was small and fragile, wrapped in her thin blanket, but at least it was no longer shivering. She stroked its tiny hand, whispering quiet words to calm herself more than the child. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was protecting something precious. But when the morning light crept through the cracks of the roof, her heart tightened. The sound of heavy boots echoed in the streets outside. Men's voices shouted orders. She dared to peek through the broken window and froze. Strange men in black suits were moving through the alleys, carrying metal devices that blinked with red lights. They looked like soldiers, but their faces were hidden behind glass masks. They swept the streets slowly, scanning walls and doors with their machines. The girl gasped softly and pressed her hand over her mouth. She had seen soldiers before, but never ones like these. They moved with sharp discipline, and their strange tools hummed with power. Something about them told her they were not searching for thieves or criminals. They were hunting. The baby stirred and let out a small whimper. The girl quickly picked it up, rocking it gently, whispering, "Shh, don't cry. They'll hear you." The glow of its skin pulsed brighter as if it could sense the danger. She held it close, praying it would stay quiet. One of the soldiers paused near the house. His device beeped faintly. The girl's breath caught in her throat. Slowly, the man turned his head toward the broken window. She shrank back into the shadows, clutching the baby so tightly she feared she might hurt it. The device beeped again, louder this time. The soldier raised his arm, signaling to others. The girl's heart pounded. "They know! They are coming!" She looked around frantically. The house had no back door, only a hole in the wall. She rushed to it, crawling through the broken bricks while holding the baby tight against her chest. Dust scraped her knees, but she didn't stop. She squeezed out into the alley just as the sound of boots crashed inside the house she had left. "Search every corner," one of them barked. She ran, her small feet slapping against the cold ground, her breath short and fast. The baby's glow grew stronger, lighting up her arms. She pulled the blanket tighter around it, but the light leaked through. It was like running with a lantern in the dark. Anyone could see her. As she turned a corner, she nearly screamed. A tall shadow was waiting at the far end of the alley. A figure stood still, cloaked in dark clothing, his face hidden. He did not move, did not speak, only watched her with eyes that faintly glowed. The girl stopped, frozen in fear. Was he one of the soldiers? Was he something worse? Her legs trembled, and for a moment she thought she had made a mistake. Maybe she should have left the baby behind. Maybe now they would both die. But then the baby stretched its tiny hand toward the figure as if it recognized him. The girl's breath shook. Who are you?" she whispered. The figure stepped forward slowly, silently. His movements were calm, not like the soldiers. His eyes glowed brighter as he looked at the baby. Finally, in a deep voice that seemed too heavy for the small alley, he said, "The child has chosen." The girl didn't understand. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man crouched down, his long shadow covering her. "This baby is no ordinary child. You gave it warmth. You gave it protection. Now its fate is tied to yours." Before she could answer, shouts came from behind. The soldiers had found her trail. Their machines beeped louder, and their footsteps thundered closer. The figure's head snapped up. His glowing eyes narrowed. "You must run," he said firmly. "Keep the child safe. The ones who hunt it will not stop. Not today. Not ever." The girl wanted to cry. "But I can't. I'm just a little girl. I have nothing." The figure leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You have already given more than all the armies in the galaxy. Do not doubt yourself." Then, without another word, he melted into the shadows, disappearing as if the darkness had swallowed him. The girl blinked, shocked, but there was no time to search for him. The soldiers' voices grew louder. She tightened her grip on the baby and ran again, her legs weak but her heart burning with new fire. She did not know who that stranger was or why he spoke of fate, but one thing was clear. This baby was important. Important enough for soldiers to chase it. Important enough for a strange man with glowing eyes to appear out of nowhere. And now, she was part of it. As she disappeared into the maze of alleys, the soldiers poured into the street behind her. Their leader lifted his device, which screamed with red light. "Find her!" he shouted. "She has the Star Child." High above, hidden on the rooftops, the stranger watched again, his cloak blending with the night. He whispered to himself, "The test has begun." And far away, in the deep silence of space, powerful beings stirred, sensing the girl's choice, and the galaxy prepared to change. The little girl ran through the narrow alleys, clutching the alien baby close to her chest, her thin blanket wrapped around its glowing body. But no matter how tightly she pulled it, the light leaked through. Every time the baby whimpered, her heart skipped. The soldiers' voices grew louder behind her, and the sound of their heavy boots echoed against the walls. Her lungs burned and her legs ached, but she did not stop. She darted around corners, crawled under broken fences, and squeezed through tight gaps between buildings. The city's ruins had always been her hiding place, but tonight it felt like a cage. The soldiers were too many, their machines too sharp. She could almost feel their breath at her back. The baby stirred, its glow brightening. The girl whispered desperately, "Please, little one, stay quiet. Please don't glow so much." But the baby only looked up at her with wide, starry eyes as if it didn't understand the danger. Its small hand clutched her shirt and a faint warmth spread from its touch, filling her chest with strange courage. She turned into another alley, only to stop short. A group of soldiers blocked the path ahead. Their devices beeped wildly, red lights flashing. One of them pointed and shouted, "There! She has it!" Panic shot through her body. She spun around, but more soldiers poured in from the other side. She was trapped. Her heart raced and her eyes darted for escape. The only way left was upward. She scrambled up a pile of broken crates and pulled herself onto a low roof. The wood creaked under her weight, but she crawled forward quickly, clutching the baby tightly. "Stop her," the soldier shouted. Bright lights cut across the dark, chasing her shadow on the roof. Bullets of strange energy hissed past her, striking the walls with sparks. She ducked and crawled faster, her knees scraping against the rough surface. She could hear them climbing after her. Just as she thought she would be caught, the baby let out a cry. It was not an ordinary cry. The sound vibrated in the air, sharp and powerful, shaking the ground beneath them. The soldiers staggered, their devices sparking. One man dropped his weapon, clutching his ears as the strange cry echoed through the street. The girl looked down at the baby in shock. Its eyes glowed brighter than ever, and a faint wave of energy spread outward like ripples in water. Windows shattered. The lights on the soldiers' machines flickered and died. For a few seconds, everything went silent. The girl didn't wait. She scrambled across the roof and leapt down onto another alley, her feet hitting the ground hard. She winced but forced herself to keep running. Behind her, the soldiers shouted in confusion, trying to fix their broken machines. She turned corner after corner, her chest heaving, until she finally collapsed behind an old metal dumpster. She held the baby close, rocking it gently. "It's okay. It's okay," she whispered, though her own voice shook. The baby blinked at her, its glow fading to a softer light as if exhausted from what it had done. The girl didn't understand. How could a baby have such power? What was it, really? Her mind filled with questions, but fear drowned them out. She knew the soldiers wouldn't give up. They would keep coming, and she couldn't run forever. Suddenly, a sound above made her flinch. A shadow shifted on the rooftop. Her heart stopped. Was it another soldier? She pressed her back against the wall, ready to flee again. But then she saw him, the same tall figure from the night before. His cloak flowed silently as he crouched on the roof, watching her with glowing eyes. "You saw it," he said in a deep, steady voice. The girl trembled. Or what was that? "The baby," it cried, and everything shook. The man nodded. That was not a cry. That was the voice of the Starborn. The power inside this child is greater than armies, greater than worlds. She hugged the baby tighter, her eyes wide. But it's just a baby. Why are they chasing it? Why are you here? The man's gaze hardened. Because many fear what it will become, and others will do anything to control it. The moment you wrapped it in your blanket, you became part of its fate. The galaxy has seen your choice, the girl's lips trembled. "I don't want a fate. I just wanted to help." "You already have," the man said softly. "And because of that, you are now the most important human alive." Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed nearby. The soldiers had regrouped, their voices calling, their boots pounding closer. The man's eyes flashed. "Go north," he ordered. "Find the old train yard. There you will be hidden for a time. I will guide you when the moment comes." He leapt from the rooftop and vanished into the shadows, leaving her shaking and confused. The girl stood, clutching the alien baby close. The night around her was no longer just dark. It was alive with danger. She whispered to the baby, "I don't know what you are, but I'll keep you safe." And then she ran again toward the unknown, while above her the stars flickered like watching eyes. The night grew colder as the little girl hurried through the ruined streets, clutching the alien baby tightly. Her heart beat fast, her legs felt weak, but she did not stop. She remembered the stranger's words. "Go north. Find the old train yard." She didn't know why, but she trusted him. Somehow his glowing eyes had carried a truth she could not ignore. Finally, after what felt like hours, she reached the edge of the city. Rusted tracks stretched out before her, leading into shadows where broken train cars slept like giant skeletons. The place was silent, forgotten, and filled with the smell of dust and iron. She slipped inside a half-broken train car and curled up in the corner with the baby, covering it with her thin blanket. The baby had grown quiet, its glow soft and dim. Its breathing was steady now, like it was resting after using its strange power. The girl touched its cheek gently, whispering, "You're safe. I won't let them take you," but she was not alone. From the darkness of the train yard, a voice spoke. "You kept your word," she gasped and turned quickly. The tall stranger stepped into the light of the broken moon. His cloak moved like a shadow and his glowing eyes locked on hers. "You again," she whispered. "Why do you follow me? What do you want from us?" The man came closer, his steps slow and measured. "I do not follow you," he said. "I follow the child, and now you are bound to it." The girl hugged the baby tighter, fear flashing in her eyes. "I'm just a girl. I don't even have food or shoes. Why would anyone care about me?" The man crouched in front of her, his glowing eyes softening. "Because you gave what no empire could offer. You gave kindness. In the cold of night, with nothing to your name, you shared your only blanket. And by doing so, you changed more than you can imagine." She shook her head. "That doesn't make sense. It was just a blanket, just a small thing." His voice deepened. "Not small. This child is no ordinary baby. It is the heir of the Star Throne, the future ruler of galaxies. Entire worlds wait for its rise. Armies are already moving to claim it. But when the child was abandoned and close to death, none of them were there. Only you." The girl's eyes widened. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "The heir to galaxies?" The man nodded. "Yes, and the blanket you wrapped around it is now more than cloth. It carries a mark, a bond of loyalty. To its people, it will be remembered as the blanket of mercy. And you, little one, will be remembered as the first protector of the starborn." The girl's heart raced. She looked down at the baby, who blinked up at her with glowing eyes. "I didn't mean to do anything big," she whispered. "I just didn't want it to die. And that is why it matters," the man said. His voice carried both weight and respect. "The galaxy is full of power, greed, and endless wars. But you, weak, hungry, forgotten, you gave without asking. You gave when you had nothing. That is the strength empires fear most." Tears filled her eyes. She was only a child. Yet now she was being told she had changed the course of stars. It felt too heavy, too big for her small hands. "But I can't fight armies. I can't stop soldiers." The man leaned closer. "No, but you can protect the child. And as long as the child lives, hope lives. Others will come to you, some to help, many to harm. But remember, your blanket was the first gift. That will never be forgotten." Before she could answer, a sudden rumble shook the train yard. The ground trembled as bright lights cut through the night sky. Huge shapes descended, ships black and silver blocking the stars. The sound of engines roared like thunder. The man's eyes narrowed. "They have found us." The girl clutched the baby tightly. "Who?" "Enemies," the man said grimly. "Rivals of the throne. They will try to take the child and destroy you." Her blood ran cold. "What do we do?" The man stood tall, his cloak spreading wide like wings. "You must hide." "I will fight." She shook her head, fear twisting her chest. "You'll be killed!" He turned his glowing gaze on her. "If I fall, others will come. But you must keep running. You must keep the starborn alive. That is your duty now." The ships landed with a crash and soldiers poured out, their armor shining under the moonlight. Strange weapons glowed in their hands. They surrounded the train yard, shouting orders in a language the girl did not understand. The stranger raised his hand, and a long blade of light appeared in his grip. He looked back once, his eyes locking on the girl. "Remember this night. Remember who you are. The galaxy already does." The girl's heart pounded as she crawled deeper into the train car, holding the alien baby tightly. Tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered, "I'll keep you safe. I promise." Outside, the clash began. Sparks lit the night and the sound of battle shook the air. The girl pressed the baby against her chest, trembling. She did not know what would happen, but deep inside she felt it. The world she knew was gone. She was no longer just a forgotten child. She was the protector of a future that could change the galaxy forever. The battle at the train yard lasted until dawn. The little girl never saw it all. She was too busy hiding deep inside the broken train car, rocking the alien baby in her arms as the ground shook and sparks flashed through the night. When silence finally came, she crawled out cautiously. The stranger was gone. The ships were gone too. All that remained were scorch marks, broken weapons, and the smell of smoke. Her heart ached. Had he survived, or had he fallen to protect her and the baby? She wanted to believe he was still out there, watching from the shadows, but fear gnawed at her. She was alone again. She carried the baby back into the city, staying in alleys and ruins. She thought maybe the danger was over. But the danger had only just begun. By the second day, strange things began happening. Posters with her face appeared on walls. Screens in shops flashed warnings. Wanted, a dangerous child carrying alien property. Report immediately. The little girl froze when she saw the picture. It was her, dirty hair, thin face, clutching the glowing baby. But the words were wrong. They called her a thief. A kidnapper. Some even called her a spy. A reward was offered. More money than she had ever dreamed of. Her stomach turned cold. Now it wasn't only soldiers hunting her. It was everyone. Ordinary people who once ignored her on the street now looked at her with greedy eyes. She kept moving, hiding in shadows. But whispers followed her everywhere. She heard men say, "If I find that girl, I'll be rich." She heard women mutter, "She's dangerous. They say she has a weapon in her arms." One night she slipped into an abandoned shop to rest. A boy about her age found her there. His eyes widened when he saw the glowing baby. At first she thought he might help. He smiled kindly and offered her food. Her stomach ached with hunger and she almost trusted him. But when she turned her back, he ran to the door and shouted, "She's here. I found her." Her heart broke. She grabbed the baby and fled, tears streaming down her face. She had been betrayed. Crowds began chasing her through the streets. Some threw stones. Others tried to grab her, screaming about the reward. She stumbled and fell, but she never let go of the baby. Its glow grew weaker and it whimpered softly. She pressed it against her chest, whispering, "Hold on. Don't leave me." The crowd grew louder, their voices filled with hate. "Catch her!" they shouted. "She's a monster's keeper." She ducked into a tunnel, panting, heart pounding. The baby felt lighter, weaker in her arms. Its glow dimmed almost to nothing. She began to panic. No, please. Don't go. Stay with me." A soft warmth spread from the baby's hand into her chest, but it was faint. Too faint. She looked at the blanket, torn and dirty from all the running. It had been her only comfort in life. But now it was the only thing keeping the alien child alive. She wrapped it tighter, praying it would be enough. Suddenly, a voice echoed in the tunnel. "Give it up, girl." "You can't win," she turned. Soldiers were there, blocking the exit. Their black suits gleamed, their masks hiding any human feeling. The leader stepped forward, his voice cold. "Hand over the star, child. You are too small, too weak to protect it. If it dies in your arms, the whole world will suffer." Her knees shook. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run. But she stood still, holding the baby close. "No," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I won't let you hurt it." The soldier raised his weapon. The red light flickered, ready to fire. The baby whimpered again, weaker than ever. Then from the shadows, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Stand down." The soldiers froze. The tall stranger stepped into the tunnel, his cloak torn from battle, but his glowing eyes brighter than ever. He held his strange blade of light at his side, steady and sharp. The leader's voice shook. "You again." The stranger's eyes burned. "If the child dies, your world dies with it. And if you lay one hand on the girl, you will not live to regret it." For a moment, the tunnel was silent. The soldiers shifted uneasily, but the stranger's presence was like fire, heavy and unbreakable. Finally, the leader lowered his weapon. "This isn't over," he muttered and signaled his men to retreat. The girl fell to her knees, sobbing with relief. She looked up at the stranger, tears blurring her vision. "It's getting weaker." "I don't know what to do." The man knelt beside her, his voice softer now. "The child's strength is tied to trust, to love. It is fading because of the hatred chasing you. You must keep believing, even when the world turns against you. That is the only way." She nodded, though fear still gripped her heart. She held the baby tighter, whispering promises to it. The stranger stood tall again, watching the dark streets beyond. "The war for this child has only begun," he said quietly. "And now, little one, so has yours." The night sky tore open with fire. Ships larger than mountains descended, covering the city in shadow. Their engines shook the air, and their lights blinded the streets. People who once chased the little girl now fell to their knees, terrified. They whispered about gods, about judgment, about the end of the world. The little girl stood in the middle of the ruined square, clutching the alien baby in her arms, her blanket barely held together, torn and dirty, but still wrapped around the child like armor. The tall stranger stood beside her, his glowing eyes never leaving the sky. "They have come," he said. His voice was deep, heavy with meaning. "Who?" the girl whispered, trembling. "The Council of Stars," he answered. "The rulers of the great empires. They demand to see the one who holds the air." Her stomach turned cold. "Me?" he nodded. "Yes, you will be judged." The ships landed with thunder, crushing the ground beneath them. From their gates, tall figures emerged, clothed in shining armor, their faces hidden by masks of gold and silver. Their voices boomed like echoes from the heavens. "Bring forth the child." The soldiers who once hunted her now dared not move. They lowered their weapons and backed away. The girl's heart pounded. She looked up at the stranger. "I can't." "I'm just a little girl." His hand rested lightly on her shoulder. "You can. You already did what no one else could. Now show them why." Her knees shook as she stepped forward. The alien council formed a circle around her, their glowing eyes piercing into her soul. She hugged the baby tighter, her voice weak but steady. "Please don't hurt it." A tall alien stepped closer. His armor shimmered with stars. His voice was cold and sharp. "Human child, do you know who you carry? This is the star-born heir, the blood of rulers. You found it abandoned, yet instead of running, you wrapped it in your cloth." "Why?" Her lips trembled. Because it was cold. It was crying. "I didn't want it to die," the council murmured among themselves. Some laughed softly, cruelly. Others tilted their heads, curious. Another alien spoke, her voice deep and heavy. "Do you know the cost? Wars have begun. Empires will fall. The fate of galaxies is tied to this child, and you dare to claim it as your own?" The girl shook her head quickly. "No, I don't claim anything. I just wanted to help. That's all." The council grew louder, voices clashing. Some demanded punishment. Others spoke of mercy. The girl felt smaller and smaller, lost in their storm of power. Her arms tightened around the baby. Then the child stirred. Its glowing eyes opened, brighter than ever, and it reached its tiny hand to touch the girl's cheek. A warmth spread through her, strong and steady, as if the baby itself was speaking without words. The council fell silent, watching. One alien elder stepped forward. His voice shook like thunder. "This is strange. In all our histories, no human was ever chosen, and yet the heir reaches for her, clings to her, trusts her. Why?" The girl swallowed hard. She didn't know what to say. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Because I didn't see a ruler. I didn't see a weapon. I just saw a baby. And babies need love." For a moment, the entire council was silent. Even the ships above seemed to pause. Then voices rose again, angrier this time. "She is too weak. She is dangerous. She will bring ruin," one shouted. "Her act was pure," another argued. "Her kindness was greater than empires." The square filled with their debate. The girl stood frozen, afraid the baby would be taken from her, afraid the world would burn because of her choice. Finally, the elder raised his hand, and silence fell. He looked down at the trembling girl, his golden mask glowing. "You have shown mercy where others showed greed. You gave when you had nothing. Perhaps your kind is not as low as we believed." But then his voice hardened. "If this child dies in your care, human, your whole species will suffer. Do you understand?" The girl nodded quickly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I won't let it die. I promise." The baby cooed softly, pressing its glowing hand against her heart. The council watched, their eyes unreadable. At last, the elder spoke again. "So be it. The fate of the heir rests with this human child. Let it be written." The council turned, their ships rising back into the sky with a roar that shook the earth. The people below trembled, whispering in awe and fear. Some looked at the girl with hatred, others with wonder. The stranger placed his hand on her shoulder once more. His voice was soft now, almost proud. "You stood before the rulers of the stars, little one, and you did not fall." The girl looked down at the baby, who smiled faintly in its sleep. Her voice was small but firm. "I'll protect you, no matter what." Above them, the stars blazed brighter, as if the galaxy itself had heard her vow. The council's ships disappeared into the sky, leaving the city in silence. But the silence was not peace. It was heavy, strange, and filled with whispers. People who had once chased the little girl now stood frozen, watching her as if she was something more than human. Some bowed in fear, others glared in anger, but no one dared to touch her. She held the alien baby close to her chest, the thin blanket wrapped tightly around it. The child's glow was soft again, steady, safe. For the first time in days, the girl allowed herself to breathe. She had survived. The baby had survived, but deep inside she knew this was only the beginning. News spread faster than fire. Across Earth, screens lit up with her image. The poor girl with tangled hair, dirty clothes, and bare feet, holding the glowing alien air. Reporters shouted her name. Politicians argued on live broadcasts. Some called her a hero, the protector of the starborn. Others called her a threat, a danger to humanity itself. But beyond Earth, the story spread even faster. Across galaxies, alien leaders whispered her name. Soldiers spoke of her courage. Merchants told tales of her kindness. Entire worlds that had never cared about humans suddenly turned their eyes toward Earth. And everywhere, one phrase began to echo: the blanket of mercy. The small piece of cloth that once kept a little girl warm was now seen as a relic. It was proof that humanity, weak, poor, forgotten humanity, could show kindness greater than any empire. The act of one starving child had shaken the pride of rulers who thought themselves gods. The little girl did not understand any of this. She only knew the baby still needed her. Every night she wrapped it close, whispering soft words, singing broken lullabies, and sharing her body heat against the cold. The child always responded with trust, tiny hands gripping her shirt, glowing eyes watching her as if she were the only star in the universe. But her life had changed forever. She could no longer walk unnoticed. Whenever she stepped into the streets, people followed. Some threw flowers, some threw stones. A few knelt before her, begging her to bless them. Others spat at her feet, calling her cursed. Through it all, she kept walking, her arms never loosening around the baby. One evening, as the sun bled red across the ruined city, the tall stranger appeared again. His cloak was torn, his face tired, but his glowing eyes remained steady. He stood before her silently, then finally spoke. "You have done more than anyone expected," he said. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "But I'm just a girl. I didn't mean to do anything." He crouched down, his eyes softer now. "And that is why it matters. The galaxy has seen kings and conquerors. None of them gave mercy. But you did. You gave when you had nothing. That is why the air lives. That is why the galaxy now fears and respects your kind." Her lips parted in surprise. "They yet respect humans?" He nodded. "Yes, they will never see you the same. Some will try to use you, some will try to kill you, but many will bow to you. For the galaxy remembers stories, and your story has already begun." The girl hugged the baby tighter, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't want to be remembered, I just want it to be safe." The stranger placed a hand on her shoulder, and because of that it will be. The child will grow strong, and one day it will rule. When that day comes, it will remember the little human who gave it warmth when all others turned away. The baby cooed softly, pressing its glowing hand against her heart. The warmth spread through her chest, steady and calm. She smiled faintly, wiping her tears. That night, as she sat under the broken stars, she realized something. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer forgotten. Her name would travel farther than she ever could. She was the girl who wrapped a star-born heir in her blanket. The girl who changed how galaxies looked at humanity. And though she was still hungry, still barefoot, still small, she carried inside her something greater than riches or crowns. She carried hope. The blanket of mercy would one day rest in the halls of empires, guarded like treasure. Scholars would write about the moment a poor human child saved the air of the stars. Warriors would sing of it. Children would dream of it, but for her it was simple. She looked at the baby in her arms, smiled gently, and whispered, "Sleep now. You're safe with me." Above them, the stars blazed brighter as if bowing. The galaxy had changed forever, and it all began with a little girl, a thin blanket, and a choice made on a cold, forgotten night.